Hey, everybody, and welcome back to another week of Crunching Your Growth. Today's guest is one of those people who make you realize that some entrepreneurs are just wired differently. Toby Ricco started his first business at 10. He built his first electric vehicle at 12, and by 17 was already working as an engineering intern at Tesla. From there, he went on to earn his BS, MS in mechanical engineering from UC Berkeley and became part of Tesla's power electronics team, working on products including Powerpack, Powerwall, Model S, Model X, Model 3. And now he's the founder of Bimotal, where he's tackling the fascinating question of what if you could turn the bike you already love into an e-bike and then turn it back again in seconds? This is a conversation about invention, engineering, mobility, founder discipline, and what it takes to bring a complex physical product into the world. So, Toby,
Toby,
welcome to the
welcome to
show.
the show.
Thanks for
Thanks for
taking the
taking the
time to
time
come
to
on.
come on.
Truly
Truly
appreciate it.
appreciate it.
Phil, it's awesome to be here. Thanks for having me, and thanks for that awesome intro. Very kind of you.
Why don't you
Why don't
take
you
us
take
back a little bit?
a little bit?
I
I
briefly went
briefly
over your
went over
history,
your
but
history, but
maybe give us a
maybe
little
give
bit
us a
more
little
in
bit
depth
more
into
in
that.
depth.
Yeah, you covered the high level points, but I would say, most of my friends in middle school and high school were playing video games, and something in me just said like build stuff, and so I was in the garage using power tools, plugging stuff into the outlets using LEDs, voltmeters, all this stuff. Mom was always worried that I might get hurt, but I was fine. And so yeah, I just had this bug to build stuff, and really took off when I was maybe about 12. I got one of those Sharper Image Razor electric scooters, and within a week or two, I just decided it was much too slow. And so this was early mid 2000s, and like eBay was becoming a thing, internet was becoming a thing. I got access to a laptop and was like, okay, like let's find a bigger motor, let's find some batteries. And that really started a lifelong passion of mine for electric vehicles. So that's kind of early life. And then in that journey, I was talking to a classmate in my calculus class in high school. I was like, oh, I'd love to work for Tesla one day. And this was like 2008. They were still really small. No one knew who Tesla was. And she's like, oh, my neighbor works there. And sure enough, her neighbor, Jim Dunlay, was VP of Powertrain at the time. And Jim had actually heard of me. He heard of some crazy kid in the neighborhood building all these electric vehicles. So that's really how I got started in this lifelong passion for electric vehicles, electric motors, electric powertrains. So that's where I've decided to devote my brain power and my career and my passion, and I love it.
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
great.
that's great.
Great story.
Great story.
So,
So
what
what
exactly
exactly
is
is
what you're
what
doing
you're doing
today
today
with
with
Bimotal?
modal?
Yeah, that's a great question, and the answer that changes constantly with time. So, bimodal started with actually with a ski accident and a knee injury, and I love mountain biking. Had particular bike, and spent a while looking at e-bikes because I had so much knee pain I couldn't pedal up a steep hill. And I decided that e-bikes were too heavy. I looked at other aftermarket motors you could add to it. They were very clunky. And eventually I came to the conclusion that, oh, I have to just design my own motor and build a system myself. And so that was really what gave birth to Bimodal, was this knee injury and a personal need. And so that's actually our first product, which is called Elevate. This can be found on our website. It's a really small motor, but tons of power. It has a quick connect lever here, so you can take it on and off your bike really quickly. It has freewheel, so there's no drag when it's on your bike. And yeah, that's the first product. So
But where would that
Where
go
would that
on the
go on
bike?
the bike?
Yeah, that would go, and we're actually going to do a quick tour. So this is exciting. I've got an extra camera. There's going to be a little bit of logistics here, but
It's great.
we're about to grab my laptop. We'll do a walkthrough, and I'll actually show you the product on the bike with a wheel spin. So maybe that's a good segue. Should we get the tour going here?
That'd be
That'd be
great.
great.
All right. So just bear with me here. I'm going to switch cameras. Yeah. Well, Phil, I'm not sure if this is going to let me switch cameras. It did. Here.
There you
There you
go.
go.
All right. So here we're going to do a little office tour by Modal, and you guys will get to see kind of a little behind the scenes what we build, how we're building it, and kind of the inside of our company. So started. So here we have our R&D shop, and so you can right away see we got a lot of bikes, some CNC machines, a lot of prototype parts here, and we're going to go down and kind of show you guys the products we make.
This is great.
This is great.
So here we have parts of motors. This side we keep pretty dedicated to like machining and R&D. The other side we actually have a production line. So we'll do a quick production line tour while Jeremy gets set up for the bike demo. So over here we have Gerardo. Gerardo is an engineering technician. He's building prototypes. He's right now working on purchase orders for components. We're going to kind of walk down the line. So here we have gears and parts that are incoming, and these all go into the motor. We have a bunch of different measurement equipment here, more parts. And so we're actually building everything here in Berkeley, California. This is a metrology machine, so it actually takes super accurate measurements of gears. Keep going here. So Martin is production associate, and he's also managing supply chain. So here he's doing a motor test. So we're testing. Do you want to talk a little bit about what we're testing?
Verify a lot of the characteristics on the motor. So we check for performance and also verify that the output is for the most part a pass. And we replicate this to all of our units that we do. So we did 50.
Can you get him closer
Get
to the mic?
to the
Can't
mic.
hear him.
Can't hear him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we replicate this essentially on a batch of about 50 to 100 units a month. Essentially, we do the entire build out here for these motors as well as the dyno testing.
Awesome.
Aside from that, yeah, just one sub-assembly of what is the Elevate system.
Cool. Thanks, Martine. We'll keep going through the line here. So more parts here, wiring harnesses, battery trays that we're building up. Here you can see the motors that are in progress. Johan is working on logging and documenting the motors that we're building here. So here you can kind of see the electronics, the motor. So yeah, these are really built by hand here as we scale production, and we'll slowly start to add automation as we get larger and larger. All right, Jeremy, do you have a bike demo ready for us? All right, so we're gonna kind of show you guys the product. It's an actual bike demo. Hopefully the lighting works out here. All right. So, yeah, Jeremy, if you want to take the motor on and off and show users how that works, how quick that is.
A little wiggle. Whoop.
There we
There you
go.
go. The unit, it's about 3 pounds. Good enough to fit in the backpack and roll stash. And when you're ready to go, just put it back on. And here we are.
That's the battery here. And so the idea is you get a full power e-bike, but it's actually a lot lighter than pretty much any e-bike you can buy on the market. And yeah, quick on and off, and lets you keep the favorite bike that you love riding. So, Jeremy, you want to do a wheel spin for us?
Right now it's throttle operated. But yeah, lift the wheel and it goes.
Awesome. Thanks, Jeremy.
Great.
So something else we'll talk about, we also have a wheelchair motor we're developing. And so you can barely even see the motor on the wheelchair. But we're using the similar motor, similar electronics, and we're starting to scale sort of our powertrain technology to other vehicle platforms. So Jeremy, can you do a wheel spin on the wheelchair here?
That's great.
Just kind of tilt one side, and yeah, so here you can't, it's tough with the camera speed. You can't really see the frequency there, but that wheel is spinning. It's very quiet. Cool.
That's great.
We'll continue the tour here. So part of building a company and a business is not just the product, but how you package the product. So we recently did a refresh on our packaging here. We have kind of a get started user app and all of that. So there's a lot of documentation you have to do to build a good product. Continue our tour here. So now we're getting into dyno and test. So here we have motor dynos. It's really loud. We'll walk through pretty quickly. These motor dynos are 550 newton meters. Here we're testing our mid-drive motor, which is a massive program. And that's the sort of motor that's big enough with enough torque that we could actually use in like a humanoid knee someday. So we're taking a look at that. We'll keep going. Rest of the tour here. We're almost wrapped up. All right, we're just going to do a quick walk through the main office. Say hello. This is Abby. She does industrial design. Matt is director of engineering. Ranjan, he's working on some software and electrical engineering. Joao is working on mechanical engineering. And then Colin is over here doing embedded software. So just wanted to kind of say hi.
That's great.
I'll head back in here. So hopefully,
Yep. Huh? Did we lose you? Are you there? Did we lose you? You went offline. You might have to go back in. Well, that was interesting. And I think he's going to have to come back in. Something happened during that whole event. So it was great to see how he was doing it. It's interesting what he decided to do. And he started out, when you think about it, he started out with these simple bike motors to make your bike electric. And then, yeah, there he is. He's back now. But starting out with just a simple bike motor and then thinking about ways that you can use that same bike motor with wheelchairs and some other things, it's brilliant.
Appreciate that, Phil. Yeah, that's been kind of one of the big things. And as we talk more about the company and maybe the formation and challenges, that's one of the underlying themes is building a product that might be really best in class in one application, but building in a way where you can actually take the tools and how you build the product and use it in other ways is something that I've learned building Bimotal, and I think it's a really good lesson.
So are all the motors hand built?
Today they are. They will eventually be automated and scaled. We're still a relatively small startup. We're doing about 1,000 motors per year. We'll be moving towards 10,000 motors per year in the next year or two. So we're in the process of scaling.
Now, So I'm assuming you got funding.
Yes,
Right.
but that's been one of the most difficult parts of the business.
it's it's the most difficult part of any business. It's time consuming trying to find the right people, the right partners. But let me ask you this: how it, what's your outlet for selling the motors? Are you? Is it primarily online? Is it primarily a small group that's buying them just for bikes? Is it hobbyists? What is it?
Yeah, so we sell them online through our website, D2C. So the first product that's in production that you saw today, that is direct to consumer. You can buy it at bimotal.com, and that really sells to passionate mountain bike enthusiasts who might have a bike that they love, or they might have a couple mountain bikes and they want a motor that they can move from bike to bike. So that's really been the beachhead, and as I mentioned earlier, that was like why I started the company is because I had this product need. But then as I built the company, I realized like, hey, I'm putting all the skill sets together to build a motor technology company, and that's really who we're becoming today.
Yeah, that's. I think it's fascinating. Now, I saw in the box there was a gear. Now, is that gear going on the rear hub? The rear is that so? You have to take the hub off and put that on first, or does?
You don't actually have to take the hub off, you just have to take your existing disc off. So it works with disc brake bikes. So you remove the disc and then you replace our gear and disc. So a
Oh, so
lot of
it's the disc brake
yep,
that's coming off,
yep,
and then you're putting that on, and that's running on the disc brake.
correct. Yeah.
So if I have a road bike with a disc brake, it'll work.
You could do it on a road bike with a disc brake, yeah.
Interesting. So what is it? What is it using? If you're doing it on a wheelchair, is it? Are you? Do you have to put a disc brake on a wheelchair, or do you put the the gear on the wheelchair?
Yeah, so the wheelchair is a different setup. So that this is the wheelchair motor, just for reference. And we actually have a direct coupling. There's
Ah,
a shaft that comes here to the wheel. So the wheelchair right now is not quick release. We might work on a version, but um, there's an argument on a wheelchair. You want the wheels to be quick release, and so you might be okay with the motor being fixed to the chair as long as the wheels are quick to disconnect.
yeah.
So it's sort of like each different program we look at, there's a different set of constraints, and so all of them have similar underlying technology. You want really highly efficient motor, a gearbox, a drive inverter, and electronics, and then we're kind of figuring out different ways to package and shape that for the different applications.
And when you think you started out, let's just take a step back because you started out talking about or building this business focused on bicycle bicycle electric bikes, turning it into an electric bike, turning any bike into an electric bike. And you looked at that market and said that market is big enough for me to do this because there's whatever, however many mountain bikes are out there, et cetera, and people would buy it. But in reality, now you're saying the market's even bigger because when we start taking a step back and saying, what else can we mechanize with these motors, like wheelchairs, so now it just makes the market
Way bigger.
huge. Right.
So let me kind of course correct there because that was actually the most painful lesson learned in my whole 5, 6 years founding Bimodal. So looking at the bike market and saying it was big enough, um, is big enough to run a good business. So we've crossed 2 million in sales all time right now. On that particular product, we've crossed 5.7 million revenue in total as a company. Um, but with the bike market and the bike aftermarket, the bike retrofit market, it's going to be like, we think we can do 10 to 50 million in revenue per year. Um, and that's a solid business, right? Like that is a really good business. However, that is not a venture business. And so
Right.
this is probably the most difficult thing to learn. Um, and I hope to save anyone listening pain and challenges along the way because we were building this motor in a way that was so engineered we needed to be venture backed. Like for example, this electrical connector here was designed in house, and not even Bosch is designing their own connectors on their e-bike motors. So we were engineering like even the screws from scratch, everything, and that obviously takes time and engineers, and none of that is cheap. Um, but we're doing that in the bike market where it is actually pretty tough to raise capital because you look at okay, what is the TAM of the bike market or e-drives to the bike market? If you look at all e-bike motors, it's actually pretty big. We're talking about maybe a $9 billion TAM. But for the aftermarket stuff, maybe it's only 100 million. And so, venture is not going to look at that and be like, okay, we can 10x our investment or 100x our investment, return the fund. And that was the toughest lesson to learn because I was like, oh, I'm building this high technology thing. In my mind, I always had the idea that if I build good enough motors, they're going to be used everywhere. So in my mind, I was always building kind of this pick and shovel foundational technology of good motors, right? It's almost like semiconductors. Like you need motors for everything, anything that moves. So that was in my mind, but you can pitch that story to venture, but it's totally different if you actually have a customer who's a robotics company and saying like, oh, we need a motor. And so that was actually the inflection point for us this year was one of our customers of this actual product, mountain bikes. He was in the Bay Area. He's built a couple companies and exited them and started a robotics company, got funding, and it's like, hey Toby, I've been looking for months for a really high torque motor for my forestry robot, and really can't find anything. Can we use your motor? Can I modify it? Like, sure, let's do that. So we had a letter of intent back in November, and then in April it turned to purchase order, and now we owe motors for that robotics program in August of 26. So there's a couple lessons learned there, but like as soon as we had that customer, it's been a totally different conversation on the fundraise. It's been much more interesting. It's like, oh, you do motors for robotics and you also have mobility. Um, and it's all the same technology. It's not like you had to reinvent the company. It's just like, hey, here's a use case for this motor and it's got a market size that is really big and it's growing really fast. So growth rate is almost as important or more important than the total market size if you're trying to pitch to venture. And so now it's like kind of overnight we're having different conversations, doors are opening that would have never opened, and that's really because we found this bigger market. And so I my advice is like, okay, if you're building a product that takes many years of development and tens of engineers, it's really painful to bootstrap that, almost impossible.
Almost
uh,
impossible.
Almost impossible. So you have to do it either in a big enough market where you can attract that venture, or you kind of have to rethink your strategy and do something that's less R&D, lighter weight, so that you can get to market sooner, generate revenue. And I didn't know that. I learned that the hard way. And like, of course, I knew it superficially, but like to live it is you learn it in a totally different way.
Yeah, it's like I don't know. It's not exactly like, but we have a very healthy biotech incubator here in Baltimore, attached to the University of Maryland, and I have a couple of friends who are doing things within there. Some of them are doing robotic surgery, and some are doing um, uh, more cancer related products. But it's impossible for them to do it on their own. They need to have somebody who says, yeah, we see it, we realize this is going to take $100 million in R&D and before you get a workable product, but we believe you're going to get to a workable product, and here's the $100 million. Because it's not like I can bootstrap. I can come up with a a food product tomorrow and I can bootstrap that and I can get to a certain amount. But when it comes to technology and things like this, where you're going to manufacture from scratch or you're going to do something that's going to, like robotics or whatever, you need deep pockets, and you need to have somebody who's going to believe in you. But more importantly, you have to, from my perspective, just from the people that I help, the people that I coach, whatever, you have to be able to confidently lay out that story of how you're going to get from what you have to where you think you're going to get to in order to get somebody to believe in you to keep writing those checks. I mean, I don't know if that's how you saw it, but that's what we've seen in our lifetime of doing it.
Yeah, 100% agree. I mean, it's the story. Uh, the best story is good customers who love what you do and need what you do. That's like your strongest story. Um, there's a notion that I've been uh, hearing recently talking to venture, and it's inevitability. It's kind of the idea that like what you're doing is inevitable. It's got to happen. Um, I think we all kind of agree that robotics and automation is like it's inevitable. We see it happening. And so that idea is picking a product that's a product or a technology or something that it's like you cannot imagine the world not doing it. And that's something that they find interesting. But then, if that's the case, then how do you stand apart? Because other people are going to be working on that problem. So there's a lot of things that you have to kind of prove and show to be able to do that.
Yeah.
Uh, yeah.
I coach people on how to raise capital in all kinds of different businesses, and every different channel of business has a different strategy attached to it. And the one thing that I try to explain to people when you're going in to pitch is don't go in there like acting like you're begging for money. You need to go in there like what you said, that this is inevitably going to happen and I'm the guy to do it. And I'm letting you in on this opportunity. And that's sort of the mind shift that you have to have when you go in there, because if you go in there acting like you're begging for money, then it's almost comes across as if you're desperate and not confident, because every investor will tell you they're investing in the entrepreneur as much as they're investing in the potential of the business.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more, and that's one of those things that is so like it's easier said than done. And
I know.
I've been in those shoes for so long where it's like, I mean, I don't know how deep we want to go here, but man, we've had like every up and down you can imagine as a company, and maybe this is a good point to talk about that. But um,
I'd love
yeah,
to.
we were founded in well, technically 2019, but my first hire was March of 2020, 2 weeks before lockdown. And you know, okay, I made my first hire. That's great. We're going to build a company. I have an employee whose livelihood matters now, not just my own. I'm not just tinkering in a garage anymore. And we were like, oh no, how are we going to build a hardware product and how are we going to demo it? Because one of the most important things is to get customer feedback and get it soon. And it's a removable e-bike motor. It's super hands-on. You got to get people touching it and trying it. So we quickly decided the best thing we could do was film it, and we filmed it on Lombard, where people know it's a famous street. Let me
Yeah,
see if I can
sure.
pull up it here. Um, let me know if you can see the screen there.
What do you want to show the pictures?
Yeah, I'm sharing some slides here. Yeah, so first hire. So now we're kind of talking through like all of the trials and tribulations of bimodal. So first hire, we're in COVID, and how do we demo this product? And so we had the idea of like let's film on Lombard. There's no streets, and this is a famous road. Everyone knows how steep it is. So I can show the bike doing this with basically me not pedaling or minimal pedaling. We can prove how powerful the motor is for the size.
Sure.
And so do creative things like this where there's obstacle after obstacle. I'm just going to go through a little bit of company story here because I have the slides.
Yeah.
uh, the next thing that happened was we actually met a doctor who um, had 80,000 face masks that were expired. The elastic straps on these duckbill masks were breaking, and so we got connected, and I was an engineer, and kind of they're like, oh, can we figure out how to restrap these? And I tell this story only to kind of share that, we were kind of life or death for our startup, right? But we still are like, okay, well, there's a bigger need here,
Yeah.
and I think that's a good lesson where if you're always focused on trying to do your best to help people and make impacts, um, you kind of have infinite energy because you're like, oh, I have to do this. And so that for us, this was a great lesson, and just kind of I share this story because I want to show Bimotal's commitment to trying to make the world a good place. Um, Here we raised a little bit of pre-seed funding, not very much, but enough to start hiring a couple of folks. This was Bimotal in 2020, so it was a kitchen table. Um, then we did a public unveil in September 2020. We had a patent filed. And again, this was like the biggest bike show, but it was all digital, all virtual.
Hmm.
Um, we start to grow a little bit. We move into a dentist office. Now we've got actual space, kind of machine shop capability here. Um, we closed a strategic deal. We now have some electrical engineers join, so we're getting more of the engineering team to actually build the product. But of course, as that happens, we get chip shortages and just supply chain chaos
Sure.
post-COVID. So this is another fun little story about kind of just startup resilience, where um, we were unable to source the STM32. It's a pretty common chip, but we needed that to build our motor drives, and so the only place we could find it was soldered to the SparkFun developer kit. Think of like a Lego set. So we were buying these developer kits and desoldering the STM32s to then put on our boards and keep building. And so again, I'm sharing this story just for anyone listening, building a company or something. You have to always be like, nothing can block you. Like
Right.
everything is just like a puzzle. It's like, okay, well, we can't do this. There's some other way around it. Keep going here. We got the new office, which you guys just got a tour of. There's a fun story. So I signed the lease for the office space, and I was telling my folks, and my dad grew up in Oakland, so the family's been generally in the area. And my dad's like, "Oh, where in Berkeley is your office?" I'm like, "Oh, it's West Berkeley." And I tell him the address, and it turns out that my grandfather had a photo studio in this exact building in the 80s. I
Oh
did not know
man,
this. I had
that's
signed the
great.
lease, and so that was serendipitous, and pretty cool to be here. We're probably going to outgrow this space really soon now, so that's a bummer, but good to be growing. Um, Going into July 22, we start delivering. So this is now the product kind of looks like how you guys saw it. We start first deliveries here. Um, we had a strategic partner. There were challenges. There were multiple times where a company should have shut down. We had people working kind of on volunteer basis. We sort of went through everything. We had COVID, we had chip shortages, we had challenge with strategics. The bike industry did a total yo-yo. Like, it absolutely boomed during COVID, but then pulled
Yeah.
back significantly. So all these things, and for the longest time, my strategy was just survive. It was like, keep building value and survive.
Right.
And I don't wish that strategy on anyone. It's a painful strategy, but so far it's worked. If you don't quit, by definition, you haven't failed.
Well, I mean, you say it's a painful strategy and you don't wish it on anybody, but I've done this a couple of times in my life, and I've been involved in a bunch more, and I've helped people, and I don't know anybody who said, yeah, it was easy. Everything worked smoothly. Oh no, we didn't have any problems. No, we never. I don't know any entrepreneur who didn't almost go out of business at least two or three times during their journey, and including including the Larry Ellisons of the world. He in the '90s he almost went out of business, and so even and I think they were doing well over 100 million at the time, maybe 200. But you know things are never easy, and you have to keep your eye on the ball, and you have to know where you're heading. Now, there's plenty of guys that went out of business because they had a terrible product, and they should have gone out of business. They were working towards building just a terrible product. But when you have a good product and you believe in it, then you got to keep going.
Yep. Yep. Yeah, no, I couldn't agree more. Um, thanks for
Yeah,
that. Thanks for that story. Yeah, so we're doing more and more development.
time is a blur.
Time is a blur. Yeah, it's literally, this is we're building a motor for a customer, and now we're taking it to a test lab in Germany to have it validated. This is at 5 a.m. We're prepping the motor and the bike. There were like a few weeks or months where like a lot of the team didn't eat a single meal at home. Like it was pretty hardcore. But fun memories.
That's
Um, we had end of 23, early 24. Our strategic partner at the time, we've had a couple different strategic partners, and now we're about to have multiple. But our first partner had to back out. They hit some financial challenges, and that was one of the biggest things that really should have shut down the company. But one of our customers on the direct to consumer motor product that you guys saw the demo of, he liked it. He had bought two of the units, and he recently exited a software company, which was a lucky break for us to have known him. And so he was like, okay, let's think about an angel investment. And this landed kind of right around Christmas. So you hear the term angel investor and you don't really understand why they're called angels, because I've dealt with a lot of angel investors who are tough, challenging. It's like, where did that term come from? Well, here we have the actual root of the term angel investor. So Bimotal would have been dead without this angel, and he saved the company. So we're super grateful, and he's been giving us a lot of guidance. But again, this is one of those stories where it's like, okay, we're dead, like we're out of money, we're cooked, and it turns out one of our customer just loves the product so much he's gonna write a check and keep the company alive.
Yeah.
Um, November 2025, we close another strategic partner. This is a Japanese motorsport company, and we're starting to scale up. These are the motor dynos you guys saw. These didn't exist a couple months ago. They were just put in place. Um, and then March and April 26, kind of present day, we started closing our first venture deals, and closed our first robotics customer. So that's kind of just a little walkthrough of our history and some of the challenges we've had along the way, to give you guys background. So
Yeah, I mean, look, the the technical side of it is not my, background. Did you want that there?
no, I don't. Can we?
I
All
got
right.
you. Yeah, I got it. Um, the technical side of things is not my background, electric motors and things. But what I do know is that, if you've got something and you've got happy customers, even if you're bootstrapping it, even if you're building by hand, even if you're getting small amounts out and you've got people that say, wow, this is great, this works, this is great, this works, then you just keep going because and you always try and find a way. It's true. Angel investors, when they see the opportunity and they see, like, if the guy was a customer, he happened to have money, rather than watch you go out of business, he saw that it was inevitable that this is going to happen, and you're already so far ahead that it becomes low risk, right? It's low risk. If a guy cashes out of a business, and I was talking about this, the other day, because there's this young company that's here that I've been working with, are trying to raise capital. And the problem, the mistake that I think some startups make is they don't have the right strategy, and they try and go too big too quick. They want to go after PE or VC money right away. And you say those guys want to put in, 5, 10, 15 million into something. They don't want to put in 500,000 or a million. And that's what you need. That's where you need angels. And that's where you need, family offices. That's where you need guys that have the money where, and it's pompous to say, but $500,000 doesn't, the risk is low for them. If a guy is worth, he ran a business, cashed out, he made $100 million, $500,000 is nothing. It'll help his taxes if something happens. So I mean, you have to sort of go after that. You have to be very strategic about raising capital. It sounds like you were, um, but you also have to get, in certain cases, lucky. You got to meet the right guy at the right time. And that's happened to us in our past lives. I mean, there were times when, we knew. I'll give you a quick one. We had these stores. I had built these retail stores. This is going back a long time, and built these retail stores, and we had four of them. And the stores were good, but we had started to build the infrastructure to expand even further, and we had a little bit of a cash crunch. We weren't doing poorly. We just had a cash crunch. And, I needed to make payroll for the four stores plus some other things. And we had been talking to this company about making an investment. And the guy calls me up and says, no lie, this is what he said. He said, "Hey, we've been looking at your financials that you sent over yesterday, and you guys have a cash crunch, and you're not going to make payroll." He said, "What's your plan?" I said, "I haven't devised it yet, but I'll figure it out." I said, we're going through our credit cards to see if we can make payroll, because we know we can pay the money back, in 2.5 or 3 weeks, right? And the guy says, "Well, go to your fax machine and just sign that document, and we'll wire you the money," because they were going to make an investment in us. And they sent over a one-page, not even a one-paragraph document that essentially said, "We're going to lend you this money short term. You're going to pay it back at some point." In a nutshell, that's what it said. And I looked at it, and my attorney we were down in DC, and my attorney was on like 2 blocks away. I went running over there, and I said, "Andrew, what should I do with this?" And he looks at it, he goes, "Sign it." I said, "Well, am I personally guaranteeing it?" He said, "Nobody's guaranteeing anything. It just says we're going to give you this money and you're going to pay it back." He said, "It doesn't say what happens if you don't. It's literally one paragraph." Signed it, sent it over. They wired the money in, and we made payroll. And it was like, and that's when we knew we had a good partner, because they trusted us. We wound up trusting them, and they helped us expand and do some other things. But it was, sometimes timing is great for an angel investor.
Did you guys end up like establishing further partnership? Did they get equity? Like
Oh
what
yeah,
happened?
yeah. They invested $11 million in it within like a month, because they knew they wanted to do it. And so and it was done through, it was an A round, so it was like preferred shares. What their interest was in, they wanted us to go out and find they felt that it would be going too slow if we were trying to build one store after another. They said, "Let's find an acquisition target that you can buy 10 stores and supplant your concept on it." And that's where they helped us out, because they knew how to do that. I had no idea how to do that. And so, yeah, we were able to, they were great partners. They moved quickly. They helped us. And then they helped us exit, you know.
Awesome. That's
Yeah,
fantastic.
it worked out well. So, but again, you got to be sort of strategic about things. But it was great. It was a great story. We haven't had. I mean, I really appreciate the time you took to tell the story. I appreciate walking through the mechanics of what you guys do. We haven't had a lot of that, on the show. So I think it'll make for a much better show. Even not only. On today's show, but these shows live forever. So we'll do snippets out of it. But it's just an interesting story and an interesting concept and market, because I personally, I like to cycle. I'm against e-bikes. I say, if you're going to cycle, right?
Me
But at
too.
the, but
Me before I tore cartilage in my knee. I was like, I'm never getting an
yeah,
e-bike. I can
but
ride my
like you
bike.
said, there are times when you may need that assistance, right? So it's good to have sort of something that's not permanent and to be put on there. I think it's brilliant. I think I got to say, I'm floored by what you've done and how you've done it. And more importantly, your approach to it. You're very matter of fact and methodical, and even in the way you explain the story. So it's very impressive. The whole thing
It's
was very impressive.
it's a lot clearer looking back, I'll tell you that. Before it is tough, but looking back, it's like, okay, this happened, then that. You never know, like, yeah, everything becomes clear. So,
No, it's really really interesting. So we've got about 4 more minutes. So anything you want to close with, make sure that you talk about your website, where people can go and find more information about you and about Bimodal, and if they're interested in making a purchase, where they can go and do that. And yeah, and anything you want to talk about for closing.
yeah, I got a couple things. First, in there, you mentioned luck. You had the payroll situation. You were tight. I found that angel investor, and you hear the how I built this with Guy Raz. It's like how much was luck, how much was skill and grit. And I'm not going to answer that question exactly, but I will say for anyone working that there's a couple things with luck, and it's I'm gonna put it in engineering terms. I think of luck as opportunity surface area. It's like how many touch points, how many things are you trying across how many people, how many channels. So that's kind of your surface area, how broad you're going. And then opportunity is like, okay, what could work? And so to me, luck is really like surface area times your ability to recognize opportunity. And this is something I had to learn over 6 years of like, we'll call it failures, but just challenges. So that is one thing I would want to share. And there's many things like being fortunate to grow up in a good area and get a good education. Like a lot of that, early life, there's some luck, but wherever you are, wherever you started, I think just really believing that it's opportunity and service area, and you multiply those things together and you create luck. I think that's a really good mindset. The other closing comment I'd love to leave folks with is we talked a lot about what's a what's a good business. People often call them lifestyle businesses versus a venture business. Bimodal's kind of straddled both, and I've gotten to taste and try to be one, try to be the other. When I had too much technology to be a lifestyle business, um, there is one is not better than the other. It just has to be the right one for what you're trying to do. So there are lifestyle businesses that are like ridiculously profitable. You make a ton of money. You have a lot of your own control, your freedom. You don't have to make financial reports to investors. Like there's a lot of overhead when you take investors. And so, I get the advice, everyone gives the advice. If you can do it without raising money, do that. Um, but then recognize if you're trying to do something, if you're trying to build a chip fab, you're going to need capital.
Yeah.
So if you're trying to do that, don't think you're going to bootstrap a chip fab, which sounds obvious, but that's sort of what I was trying to do. So definitely understand neither one is better or worse. They're different. Understand what you're going to do, what the needs are, and then if you're actually going to go after venture, make sure your market and TAM is big enough and what you're doing is inevitable so you can really make sure you can secure that venture funding. So those are the kind of closing thoughts to anyone working on a business or thinking about starting a business. And then finally, just where you can find information on Bimodal. You can go to bimodal.com. That's the spelling. You can send us an email, info@bimodal.com. Our contact information is also on our website. So everything can be found through the website. Any potential interested investors can find us there. What have you? Just go to bimodal.com.
Yeah. Yeah, it's great. I mean, I think it was a fantastic conversation. And what I really love about the story is that it connects sort of three things that founders need more of, I think: curiosity, technical depth, and the willingness to solve real problems in a completely different way. And so, for everyone watching or listening, go check out Bimodal, learn more about what Toby and his team are building. Because this is one of those companies that reminds us that, innovation does not always mean replacing what people love. Sometimes it just means making what they already love more useful. So thanks for joining us. And again, thank you for taking the time. And we will see you guys next week.
Awesome. Thanks so much.